Every application has its one or two scary tools. Curves happens to be one of Photoshop's, like the pen tool. They're pretty complicated and they require a decent amount of understanding as to how they work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my adjustments. Let me go ahead and get that back since I closed it. And I'm going to choose this little symbol here called curves. This opens the curves dialog box and controls. And what curves will allow you to do is to modify the highlights, the shadows, and the midtones in your images by adjusting this curve. And what you can do is try to go for what's called the classic S curve, where your curve is shaped like a slight curve. Well, that's kind of redundant, but that's what it does. And it gives your image a nice contrast and everything looks really sweet instead of being overexposed or having the shadows too dark and that kind of thing. Now, for those of you who are a little worried about this part, Photoshop CS4 has a new feature, which I really like a lot, which is this little icon right here. This will allow you to click and drag interactively inside of your image to make modifications. I'm going to hit the spacebar real fast and move this image over so we can see more of it. Now I'm going to click on this icon here. So let's say that I want to make the floor that she's behind a little darker. So what I'll do is I'll click, and then when I hold my mouse down, I can move my mouse down like so, or up to make it brighter. So those pixels and that range of pixels is getting darker. Now notice the curve. This guy right here is called a point. Now if I want to, I can click on that point myself and move it around inside the image. I could also click on the curve to add another point. Let me just show you what a classic S curve looks like. Something like this. So we would have a nice degree of contrast and highlights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this modification by hitting the garbage can. And I'm going to start again. So I'll go to curves, I'll grab this guy again, and I'm going to now click on the wall to darken it. So I'm dragging down just a little bit. When I let go of that, the cursor turns into an eyedropper again, so I can go elsewhere in the image and do the same thing. So let's say I want to brighten up her fur a little bit. So I'll click in the fur and I'll move up. And now I'll go to the leaves and I'll click down. See how nice that looks? I'm going to go to my layers now just to show you the before and after. So I go to layers and I'm going to hide this adjustment by clicking on the eyeball. That's before and that's after. It's a little brighter and I think a little bit more pleasing to the eye. As always, you can keep this as a part of your file. Just hide the eyeball if you're not happy with it. If you want to return to curves, double click on the icon here in the layers panel and then the adjustments open again and you can continue to modify it. By the way, you can also choose a channel to modify. Currently we're in RGB mode, which means we're adjusting everything at the same time. If you want to just focus on things that are red, green, or blue, choose one of these, and when you make modifications, you'll only be affecting those pixels. So if you have too much green in the image, choose green, and then you can modify that. Likewise, you can click on Auto, and Photoshop will look at your image and make its own determination as to how it should look to be most pleasing to your eye.